Today we're going to be doing a 2028 election prediction and a hypothetical matchup between Josh Shapiro and JD Vance. But before we get started, if you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe for more videos like this. So let's start off with Josh Shapiro's safe states. We have California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Hawaii, Illinois, Vermont, Connecticut, New Jersey, actually probably not New Jersey for right now, Delaware, Maryland, DC, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Maine's 1st Congressional District, putting his safe electoral votes at 149. Now let's go to JD Vance's safe states. We have Alaska, Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, Nebraska at large, along with Nebraska's 1st and 3rd Congressional Districts, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, and West Virginia, putting JD Vance's safe electoral votes at 201. Before we go to the likely states, let's look at JD Vance's and Josh Shapiro's favorability ratings. So from a poll from September, we see that Shapiro's favorability ratings is 59%. Now that's a lot, considering at that time, Kamala Harris had a 46% favorability rating and Donald Trump was at 45%. And if we look at Vance's favorability polls out of DDHQ and The Hill, we see that he has a favorability rating of 45.3%. Now, if you don't know who Josh Shapiro is, he is the governor of Pennsylvania, and he won by about 15 points in swing state Pennsylvania. So he's a very popular governor. Now let's go to the likely states for Josh Shapiro and JD Vance. Let's start off with Josh Shapiro again. The first one that I have as a likely state is New Mexico. Now, if you look at this election, Harris did not do that well in New Mexico, only winning the state by about 6 points, when Biden, just 4 years before that, had won it by 11 points. Trump did a lot better with Hispanic voters, and I do believe that you're going to see that trend carry on into 2028. But still, I do believe that because Josh Shapiro is a pretty popular candidate, I think he's going to do well with urban and suburban voters, and that's going to bump it up to a likely margin. Another state that I have as a likely margin is the state of Virginia. Now, if we look at the results in Virginia, we see that Harris only won the state by about 5.7%, so close to 6 points. She really underperformed what Biden did, and Virginia has been shifting to the right. It does have a Republican governor. Now, there is a governor election coming up in the state, so we're going to have to see what's going to happen in that governor election. But all that aside, I do believe Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro is going to be doing pretty well in Virginia. Probably shifted a little more to the left, and that's why I have it as a likely margin. Another state that I have as a likely margin is the state of New Jersey. Now, New Jersey, like Virginia, has had a major shift to the right. Phil Murphy, the incumbent governor, only won by 3 points in 2021. And looking at this, you see Donald Trump actually flipped Passaic County, which used to be a very Democrat county, and came close to flipping Bergen County. Now, I don't believe that if Gavin Newsom is on the ballot, I don't believe New Jersey is going to shift more to the right. Because JD Vance isn't as popular as Donald Trump is. Donald Trump has a plus 13 favorability rating right now, while JD Vance only has like a 1% favorability rating. So, for that reason, I do believe that New Jersey is going to be bumped up to the likely column, but we're just going to have to keep on looking at New Jersey, especially the governor election this year. Another state that I have as a likely margin is the state of New York. Now, if we look at New York, we see that Trump did very, very well in New York. He cut down Kamala Harris's margin to just 12 points, which would be a safe margin. But unlike New Jersey, I actually do believe New York is going to shift more to the right. New York City has a lot of illegal immigrants. It's really a sanctuary city. And the people of New York have shown that they do not like those policies. That's a big reason why New York shifted so much to the right. And you've seen, even in the early days of Trump's presidency, they've already done raids and gotten some criminals off the streets in major cities. And I believe that's going to be a very popular policy. And I think that New York is going to shift more to the right, even with J.D. Vance on the ballot. And so I believe that's going to be a likely margin for Josh Shapiro. Another likely margin that I have is Maine at large. Now, if you look at Maine at large, it voted for Harris by 7 points. And that was a shift of 2 points to the right from 2020, but it did shift leftward relative to the nation. And Maine socially or ideology, I should say, is a more Democrat state. It does have Susan Collins, who is a pretty bipartisan member of Congress, who is a Republican, but it is more Democratic. And so I do believe that it's going to stay really in the likely column in the next election. And so that's it with our likely margins. Now let's go to the likely margins for J.D. Vance. The only likely margin that I have is the state of Ohio. Now, if we look at how Ohio voted this election, it shifted, I think, about 4 points to the right. Donald Trump won it by about 11.2%, almost a safe margin. And I do believe that this is probably going to be the margin that J.D. Vance wins it by, give or take. Ohio has used to be a battleground state, but shifted hard to the right. And so I see J.D. Vance winning it by a likely margin. Now let's go to our lean margins for Josh Shapiro. The first lean margin that I have is the state of Minnesota. Now, if we look at the state of Minnesota, this election, it voted for Harris by about 4.2%. So it's not really close to that 6-point margin, which would be it for a likely margin. And you saw this state shift about 3 points to the right, especially some of the cities like St. Paul and Minneapolis. And so I don't think it's going to shift too much to the left or too much to the right next election, and so I'm going to keep that in the lean margin. Another state that I have as a lean margin is the state of New Hampshire. Now, New Hampshire really shocked a lot of people. It was a lot closer than a lot of people expected. Kamala Harris won New Hampshire by 2.8%. Many polls showed her up by 5 points and 7 points. So she really underperformed in the state of New Hampshire. And this could be a problem for Democrats coming up. I do believe that the reason why it became really competitive is because Donald Trump was on the ballot. Donald Trump has become more of a popular candidate of getting that rural vote out. And so this might be a fluke. We don't know. We're going to have to see. But for right now, I'm going to put it in the lean margin. Another state that I'm going to put in the lean margin for Josh Shapiro is the state of Pennsylvania, his home state. And again, you look back at that 59% favorability rating. Josh Shapiro is a really popular governor in Pennsylvania, and I can't see him running and losing Pennsylvania. I just don't see J.D. Vance winning Pennsylvania. He's just very, very popular. And that's why I have that in the lean margin. Another lean margin that I have is this, the district of Nebraska's 2nd. Now, Nebraska's 2nd district voted for Harris by about 4 points, and it has Omaha, which is a pretty leftward-leaning city, and so that's why I have that as a lean margin. And then I have one last lean margin, and that's the state of Michigan. So Michigan actually voted for Trump this election. It did vote left relative to the nation. Trump won it by about 80,000 votes. He did really well in Wayne County and Macomb County. But I do believe that Josh Shapiro, because he's very popular in Pennsylvania, people in Michigan are going to like his policies. And so that's why I have him winning Michigan by a lean margin. Again, Michigan does have a Democrat governor who voted for her by, I'm pretty sure, about like 12 points or so. So it's a pretty Democrat state. It did vote for Trump, but I still do believe that Josh Shapiro would win Michigan by a lean margin if he ran. So that's it with our lean margins for Josh Shapiro. Now let's go to J.D. Vance's lean margins. But before we go there, I did forget one district in Maine, that's going to be likely margin, voted for Trump by 9 points or so that's going to be likely margin. Now, let's go to the lean margins for J.D. Vance. We have Arizona. So Arizona was really surprising to me. I did not think Trump was going to win Arizona by this many points. He won it by 5.5 points, which is a lot, considering that the polls showed that Arizona was going to be a really close state. But Donald Trump did really well. He flipped Maricopa County, won it by 3.5 points, and he did just really well in the whole state. And so because Arizona has taken a shift to the right, I do believe that J.D. Vance would win Arizona. He also has an advantage with the rural areas. I do believe J.D. Vance, coming from a rural town, I think he would do well in some rural areas and win it by a lead margin. So that's it with the lean margins. Now let's go to the tilt margins. This time let's start with J.D. Vance. I believe that J.D. Vance would win Nevada by a tilt margin. Trump did really well in Clark County. I'm pretty sure Biden won this by, I think, like 7 points, but Donald Trump cut down the margin to 2.6%, which is really good for Donald Trump and helped him win the state. Nevada has a Republican governor and has been shifting to the right, and so I believe J.D. Vance would win this by a tilt margin. Another state that I believe he would win by a tilt margin is the state of North Carolina. North Carolina voted for Trump this election by 3 points. And you saw Trump do really well in the rural areas, even parts of the areas that were hit by the Hurricane Helene. And so I believe J.D. Vance would have a strong appeal in these parts of the areas. And then Josh Shapiro will probably do better in places like Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, and Asheville, bringing up Democrat turnout, but I still do believe that J.D. Vance would win this. Another tilt margin, but this time for Josh Shapiro, is going to be Wisconsin, which would put him to 270 electoral votes. Wisconsin was one of the states that Trump did really well in the 2020 election. But he won it by a surprisingly small margin this time, by only 29,000 votes. And a big part of that was Milwaukee and Madison having pretty high Democrat turnout. And this state really surprised me, like Arizona, that it was this close. I really thought this was like the best state, I'm pretty sure, for Trump out of the Rust Belt. Now it's the worst state for him. And so Wisconsin taking that leftward shift is not going to be good. A lot of the suburbs of Milwaukee have been shifting a little to the left, so that's not good for J.D. Vance or Republicans. And so I believe Josh Shapiro would win Wisconsin by a tilt margin. And then the last state. So I've really been battling whether to give this to J.D. Vance or Josh Shapiro. I really could see this one going either way. This election, you saw Georgia. You saw like the urban areas shifting to Trump. You saw the suburbs shifting to Harris. And you saw the rural areas shifting to Trump. Trump won the state by 115,000 votes. So I just really don't know. I'm battling whether to give this to Josh Shapiro or J.D. Vance. I think just because the rural areas are so much, and because he probably will be able to get the rural area turnout, I think I'm going to give this one to J.D. Vance as of right now by a tilt margin. Things could definitely change, but as of right now, my prediction would be Josh Shapiro gets 270 electoral votes to J.D. Vance's 268. Now, this definitely could change. J.D. Vance maybe could pick up one of the Rust Belt states like Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania. But as of right now, because Josh Shapiro has a very big favorability rating, and because he does have more moderate track record, I do believe he would win this election against J.D. Vance. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to smash the like button down below and subscribe. Comment your thoughts or suggestions in the comment section down below. Shout out to Diana Barbie, our first channel member. If you would like to become a member, you can join near my channel logo. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.